Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm Becky, and I'll be your host. And today we're going to be talking about an eco retreat in Chiang Mai, Thailand called Little Forest with my guest, Leah McHugh. Leah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am excited to talk with you about, first of all, always love to talk about Chiang Mai and retreats. Retreats, I personally love going on them. I don't know who doesn't love retreats, to be honest. But
Fair.
yeah, happy to hear about this new space. First of all, Leah, can you tell us about your background and how you started your digital nomad journey?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think I was sort of destined to be a digital nomad. Not that I'm doing anything particularly important with it, but I grew up in Australia and in America. I was a backpacker for many years. I lived in Europe, and then I started working in e-commerce, and it just seemed like the logical next step to do that on the road.
Yeah, well, that's great. How did digital nomad life? I'm curious. How did it live up to your expectations of it? Because we all have these big expectations, right?
Yeah, I think I did what a lot of people do at first, where I moved too fast in the beginning, and so definitely slowed it down over the years. But I think, yeah, it's definitely lived up to my expectations. To be fair, I did not know what a digital nomad was when I became one, and I'm still not totally comfortable calling myself one, even though that is what I am at this point.
Yeah, I know. It's funny how there's a lot associated with that label just compared to a remote worker or other things. So,
Yeah, and there have been the conversations of like, if you have a home base, are you really a nomad? And I don't know, it gets complicated fast. So I just try to do my thing and not really think about the labels.
well, let's talk about doing your thing. We're getting to this project. First, let's get ourselves over to Chiang Mai. How did you
Yeah.
get to Chiang Mai? What do you think about Chiang Mai? Do you live there like half of the year? What is your current relationship with Chiang Mai?
Yeah, so I've been going to Chiang Mai for 8 or 9 years now. It's been a while. And I was going every year before I started the business there. I don't live there full time. It is one of my three bases at the moment. So right now I am bouncing between Boston, Sydney, and Chiang Mai, and I don't really recommend having your bases quite that far apart. There's a lot of travel time. But yeah, so I spend let's say a third of the year there on and off. But yeah, I love it. It was one of those places where I'd heard a lot about it before I got there, and I wasn't really sure what to expect because, sometimes you hear about places that everyone loves and you're like, maybe I'll love it. And then, of course, I loved it like everybody does, and just got a really great group of friends there, and it just kept coming back.
Yeah, I do think eventually it's the people that bring us back, along with
Yeah,
the things
absolutely.
that Chiang Mai, I know people love to get massages there, people love the
That too.
food. Yeah, and just the vibe.
Yeah.
You haven't
Yeah, I
been.
feel like we all like live our best lives when we're in Chiang Mai. I joke that I am my own trophy wife when I'm in Chiang Mai. My days are very busy with self-care and doing fun things when I'm there.
Yes. Yeah, I do think a lot of people think of it as a retreat space, even in the city, and then
Yeah.
they start to go outside of the city and they discover it is a really special place. Okay, so let's talk about Little Forest. How did this project start, and how is it going now? Take us on that journey.
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, I think, I was in Chiang Mai and I met up with a friend of mine who I had met years and years and years ago. She taught me how to cook Thai food. And her and a friend of hers had just finished building a clay house the day that we were meeting. And so they took me to see it. And it was super hot that day because I was there in rainy season for I don't know why I was there in rainy season. It's very hot in rainy season. And it's cooler inside the clay cabin. So we randomly decided to take a nap inside of this house in the middle of the day, and we were talking, and my friends were telling me how land next to there was for sale and how they wanted to build a homestay there with more of these clay houses, and they needed an investor. And I was like, maybe I could do this with you. And it just went very easily from there, actually.
That's so cool. Like what
Yeah.
about it? Maybe it was because you're in the clay house yourself, but what made you think I can be that investor rather than, somebody might just be like, well, maybe this person in Chiang Mai could help or
Yeah, I was already looking at buying something in Chiang Mai. At that point, I was looking at a condo because that's easier for foreigners. And because I go there all the time, I could just stay there when I'm there and then rent it out when I wasn't there. but it ended up, looking at the numbers, it was not that much more expensive to do this with my friends. And the clay houses genuinely are like, it's one of the best naps I've ever had. And I know that they had built and run 3 other guest houses in Chiang Mai before this. And so I knew that they knew what they were doing. And I had known them for years. And I'm always just kind of on the lookout for a cool business or a cool investment. And it just kind of, all the timing worked out perfectly.
That is so cool. And like, I really want to, I'm trying to picture these clay houses. Do you like sleep typically on like, what is it? What are you sleeping on when you're inside the clay house?
Well, so that day we were sleeping on the floor because I had just finished building the house. But our guest house does have beds. So we have beds and we have soft mattresses for Thailand. If those who have not stayed in Thailand, often the mattresses are very, very hard. We tried to get less hard ones. So we have actually most of the furniture and most of the stuff at Little Forest has actually been custom made for us. We are right outside of a carpenter's village where everybody's like 3rd or 4th generation carpenter. So all of the beds we had custom made for us. The pillows were made by a grandma in our village called Grandma Pillow. And the mattresses were not custom made for us, but the blankets and the sheets, everything was custom made by as much local people and local ingredients, let's say, as possible.
That is incredible. Okay, so your friends proposed this to you. You decided to become an investor. How long did it take to open, and how long have you guys been open?
Yeah, so we had to buy the land first. We didn't even have the land at that point. And they were still building houses for other people. They started building these for other people during COVID, because it's quite an affordable way of building. And part of the building process is that they show people how to maintain it. So it's often cheaper over the years as well to maintain. So they had to finish their projects. We had to buy the land. Then we had to clear the land and then build our own houses. So that whole process took totally about a year and a half. Building was probably about a year. And we actually just opened for Loikratong in November. So we are brand newly open. Yeah.
Great. You guys are hearing it here first. I thought you were going to say it took 3 to 5 years. That is incredible speed for investing.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a video because I couldn't be there for all of the building. We did a video laying the first brick, and then I remember we did a video call a week later, and I was like, "Oh, the walls are all there now." Like they build amazingly quickly.
Yeah. And what in the end, what has opened there? What did they end up building? How many clay houses do you have? What kind of facilities are there now?
Yeah, so we have 4 cabins, and then each cabin has a private bathroom, and then there's 2 little outdoor kitchenettes between 2 of each cabin, and we also have a separate kitchen, which is also a dining area, and then there's a little office space off of that if people want to work, although I always end up just working in the kitchen, and I think most people will end up working in the kitchen because it's just nice in there. And we also built a dipping pool, a steam room, and then we have a staff accommodation room up the front, and we are still building like a little reception slash gift shop. We're building that in December.
Wow, sounds really great. Is that so? Would you say that is what you're going to have there, or are you still building more clay houses as you go?
So for right now, that's all we have. We do have the option of maybe expanding the land a little bit, and maybe we'll build a couple of more cabins. But we wanted to start small, and we also want to keep it small. So even if we do expand, we're not going to make it huge. Like it's not going to become a big resort, but we may add a couple of more cabins in the next few years if we decide to expand on the land. We're lucky that we have the option to do that because it is available, but they aren't in a huge rush to sell. So.
Okay, so when you come to Little Forest, what are some things you can do there?
Yeah, so we try to make it. What we've been saying is that Little Forest is for rest, but we do have a lot of activities that you can do as well because you are kind of away from the city. So it's 35 minutes from the city. So the first thing we do is we pick you up from the city and we drive you to Little Forest. And then everything is included once you're there. So all of the meals are included. And then we have some sort of daily activity. So whether it's a cooking class or sometimes we do like an herbal wellness day where you get to learn about different Thai herbs and also go in the steam room. We can have a carpentry class if people are interested because our carpenters are right nearby and they're super talented. It really just depends on what the people are interested in. But we try to make it so there's one activity or adventure a day. And then there's yoga in the morning, of course, because it's Chiang Mai.
Course.
Yes.
And I don't know, is it possible to get massages there?
There, yes, we have two wonderful ladies who will come to us and give massages. And you can either have that in the yoga space or you can have it in your room, depending if you want oil or Thai or if you just want some privacy. But yes, of course, there's massages.
Beautiful. Now, I also saw on your website there was a workshop, and this, I guess, is not always offered, but to learn how to build the clay houses.
Yeah, so that's one we're doing in December. We aren't doing those all the time just because we aren't always building. We did just finish one with a local school where we were helping the school build a little shop for the kids to learn about like business and how to run a cafe and a shop. So we did another like day workshop there where people could come and learn how to build. And then yeah, when we have opportunity to, we do special workshops to learn how to build the clay houses as well.
Fantastic. So I'm wondering, like, do you plan on offering Little Forest potentially to groups of people who can like rent the whole facility out?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is 4 rooms, but each room can hold between 3 to 4 people. So in total, it can hold 14 people if everyone's cool with sharing a room. Otherwise, it can hold 4 if they're not cool with sharing rooms. But yeah, the plan is to rent it out to groups if they want to run their own retreat, and we can handle as much as they want as part of that. So if they want us to do the food as well as the accommodation and the transport, then we can do that. If they just want it to be the accommodation, we have different packages depending on what people are looking for. But yeah, it's an excellent retreat space. And so we're trying to make it so people can either come individually or with a group and get out of the city, basically.
Yeah, it sounds like the way you started with friends, local friends that you already had, and the carpentry is close by. It sounds like there's really a lot of resources if you need to find people or expand the team. It's not going to be difficult.
Yeah, my friends there are just very talented and very well connected to other very lovely, talented people. So we've been really lucky that has been very easy to do so far.
Okay, speaking of easy, I did have a question about difficulties.
Yes.
Now, I know you were not always there on site while everything was happening, but are there difficulties that you faced that you did not foresee when you started? And can you share those with us?
So we did have some difficulties. To be honest, they were a little bit foreseen just because I had heard how Thai government can sometimes be to deal with as a foreigner. Nothing was too difficult, but there were a few rules that changed while we were halfway through buying the land. So we had to sort of scramble to make some changes. Thankfully, I had a Thai lawyer already, which made that process a whole lot easier. But yeah, there's sometimes dealing with the bureaucracy there as a foreigner because you're not familiar with it can be quite difficult. Also, I think a lot of foreigners are trying to buy land with not necessarily proper intentions. So they may have a Thai business partner that isn't really their business partner. So we were put under a fair amount of scrutiny when we were buying the land and forming the business. Although we are actually like legitimately running it with the Thai business partner, there were a lot of checks to make sure that that was actually the case when we were setting up.
Can you clarify the rules? You don't have to give out all the details, but the general rules of buying land as a foreigner in Thailand for the people who are not aware.
Yeah, so a lot of people actually don't buy it. They'll just do a 100-year lease. In our case, what we did is we formed a Thai company since we were going to be running it as a business anyway, where I own 49% of that company and my partner owns 51%, and that allowed us to buy the land under the company name. So the rule is basically a foreigner can't own more than 49% of the land. And so this was the way that made the most sense for us. I know some people will have like the land will be in like a lawyer's name, which is kind of gray area in terms of legality. But yeah, it's totally allowed for a foreigner to own 49% of a company that owns land there. So that's the way that we decided to go. Since we were running it as a business anyway, it just made sense.
Yeah, yeah. I think, when you said a lot of foreigners were trying to buy land, but I just wanted to clarify, like they do have to have locals own 51%.
Yeah, a foreigner can't own land straight out. And so, yeah, so it'll either, some people will just put it they'll pay somebody to have it in their name, which has issues. This was the most proper way for us to do it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've got everything. Eventually, you got everything figured out, and bureaucracy is difficult in most countries, I would say, as a border. So,
Yeah, it was interesting explaining to my accountant in the US what was going on. It's like, yeah, so I own 90%, but then we had to change it, and then we had to change it again, and then we had to change it again, and this is where it's going to be now. And they were just like, okay. So, yeah.
all right. Well, I mean, we've already heard so many wonderful things about Little Forest, but why should people come to Little Forest instead of many other retreats around the world? I know Bali is always talked about, and
Yes.
so why Little Forest?
We are very focused on Thai culture, and I realize that that is kind of ridiculous since I am the non-Thai person sitting here telling you about that. But I feel like a lot of the retreats, particularly in Thailand and particularly in Chiang Mai, a lot of them you're going to a retreat in Thailand that's being run by Farang or foreigners, and our focus is very much it's Thai. It is a retreat, but it's also sort of a homestay. Orn is my business partner. Everybody calls her Auntie Orn, and she genuinely just loves taking care of people. So it's really like you're going to your aunt's house, but you're also learning cool stuff about Thailand and about cooking and about taking care of yourself. And for me, it just feels like coming home, and that's what a lot of our guests have said so far, that it's just like coming home and taking a rest, and you feel so much better after doing so. And yes, there's tons of retreats out there where you can do yoga and you can do all sorts of stuff. But I've yet to be anywhere quite like Little Forest in terms of recharging and really connecting with yourself and nature. You know, we're surrounded by organic farms. It's beautiful there. We have very friendly cats. It's just everything you could want.
Good to know about the cats for people who are cat lovers, yeah, or people that may not be for different reasons.
Well, the cats don't have to go in your. Actually, the cats aren't supposed to go in your room, but they're
Okay.
there if you need a cat.
I did want to ask you about the food. You mentioned that you offer 3 meals a day. You can make the food. Is it food that from all different types, like vegetarian, vegan? Can you cater to everybody?
Yeah, we can. Ornis actually was known when she was teaching cooking for her vegan Thai cooking. So we do cater to everybody. It's mostly Thai and mostly Northern Thai, although Orn is not from Northern Thailand, so there is some Isan mixed in there as well. And we can of course do, the classics like green curry, Penang curry, masaman, of course. But yeah, the food is a really big part of it. I think both me and Orn are very into food. And so food is really, we should not be allowed to buy kitchen things together. We bought so many things. But it's a huge part of coming there. You get to go to the local market, and where all of the food is fresh. The local market is all the people from nearby. So half the time the stall will only have one or two things because that's literally what they picked that day. And we've had a few chefs stay with us so far, and they said it was the best food they had in Thailand. So
Wow, foodies, get yourself a weekend booked here already. Just for people that are curious, like, can you explain just a little bit about what Northern Thai food is and Isan?
yeah, so Northern Thai food, I guess most people would associate with cow soy, I guess. So it tends to be a little bit spicier. There's a lot of pork. Isan, there's a lot more. I guess it's most known for like fermented fish in things. They're just slightly different. It does all get mixed together a little bit, but I think Chiang Mai tends to be known for a little bit more spice in terms of like how they flavor the meat. I'm probably butchering that, and Thai people are going to be upset, but
You're doing better than I could do. But yeah, it's good to mention, pork, fish. So I know people that don't like either of those things, but just there's so much variety in Thai food as well. And
yeah, and you can definitely, I mean, there's a ton of vegetarian options too, but I actually didn't really realize until a few years ago how much pork is eaten in the north.
yes, but I found it all very tasty.
Oh, yeah, it's delicious. I am not complaining.
Okay, now I know you were already a veteran you were a business owner when you invested already, but what have you learned about yourself since starting to be involved with Little Forest? Anything that you would do differently if you could start from scratch again?
Um, yeah, I think I probably I'm not as good as delegating as I would like to be. And Little Forest has really taught me that because I've been very lucky in that I've had a very good team from the beginning. So there were a lot of things that I just really didn't have to worry about with this, which I've had to worry about in the past. There are still some things that I think I probably should have delegated or hired somebody to do in order to get it done quicker. I think it's, especially when it's something that you're starting and it's something that you really feel about, it's difficult to release control of those things. And I think for me, that's been the biggest learning curve, just in business in general, but with this specifically, is that other people can do things and people can do things often better than I can. And I really need to lean into that more.
Life lessons for all businesses, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now you mentioned that some people like to, that you have, I think you're saying you're working in the outdoor facility. I'm just curious about the Wi-Fi. Like, is the Wi-Fi, how good is it? And I know some retreat spaces have policies about like, don't work on your laptop in certain places.
Yeah, so we actually, I mean, it's Thailand, so the Wi-Fi is pretty good. When we were building, I was there for part of the building before we had Wi-Fi, and I was doing video consults just using phone data. Thailand is very good for Wi-Fi. We do now have Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi is very good. We say it's Wi-Fi optional. So we don't immediately give people the Wi-Fi passwords, but if they want the Wi-Fi password, we will of course give it to them, and we're not going to give anyone a hard time for working. Like I said, I love working in the kitchen, and Orrin will keep giving you snacks if you work in the kitchen. So that's my recommendation if you come and stay.
Yeah, it's interesting what's been happening with retreat spaces because I feel, more and more they're becoming a place where either they insist you get rid of the internet and you really get
Right.
away. And that's actually one of the benefits. I would actually pay someone to take my phone away for a few days. But then also,
Yeah.
we're living in the business world, the connected world. So I know it's unrealistic sometimes to expect people to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely appreciate having my phone taken away from me too. But if people are wanting to stay for longer, we can't really expect them to, not connect to anything for a week or a couple of weeks if they come to stay. So it's Wi-Fi optional. And certainly if people are running their own retreat at our space, it's up to the facilitator whether they want the Wi-Fi to be available or not.
True. Okay. Now, another, I think, important question is, are you guys open year round, or is there any part of the year where you close?
We are not going to be open during burning season. I want my team to leave during that part of the year. For those who aren't familiar with burning season in Chiang Mai, it is when all of the smoke from burning the fields and wildfires and from the border of Myanmar come over and makes it really hard to breathe for a few months. So we will be closed for those months so everybody can escape the smoke. So it changes a little bit each year, but generally April. So yeah, we'll be closed for that part of the year.
Yeah, and they do that because they think they're renewing the fields and getting them ready for the next season. Is that why they do it? I never.
Yeah, so it does actually, it adds nitrogen to the soil. It's also kind of the fastest way to clear a field, just setting it on fire. But unfortunately, just the way Chiang Mai is geographically, the smoke kind of gets a little bit stuck because you're surrounded by mountains. So depending on the year, it can last a little bit longer and it can start a little bit earlier, but usually April is the month where everybody just kind of leaves and goes south.
Yeah, it's unfortunately the one drawback I would say about Chiang Mai, besides that it can get too hot in some parts of the year, but that's really,
Yeah.
it's not, I would say, possible to live there year round because of burning season. You do have to get out of, it's quite high levels of
Yeah, no, it can
toxicity.
get quite bad. I was there for one of the like peak burning seasons and I had migraines a lot when when I was there during that time of year. We also, this year they did have some floods, which were the worst they've had in 100 years. Our land flooded, but thankfully our houses did not. So, we're going to have to kind of play that by ear as the world gets hotter. That potentially will kind of change certain times of year for us as well, but it's something that we're planning for, and we kind of just have to wait and see.
Yeah, maybe it's in a way it's like you got to test how your land is with something like that early, and yeah,
Yeah, we were
something we
lucky.
all.
I mean, the road flooded, but we were our houses were okay because we're quite near the Ping River as well, which is what flooded. But I mean, like parts of the city were still cleaning up when I got there in November, so it was worse than usual, worse than expected. So we're planning for that, and we're kind of just seeing how it goes.
And my last big question for Little Forest, are there any times of the year, like where there are festivals or a cultural tradition that you would say, hey, come at this time of the year, we're going to do something special?
Yeah, so we open for Loy Krathong, which is, I mean, it's a lunar calendar, so it changes a little bit each year, but it's usually around November. Loy Krathong is where you are celebrating the Ping River, actually. Orrin describes it as Mother's Day for the river. But it's the one that people have probably seen photos of where they have the lanterns in the sky and the floating lanterns in the water. That's a really special festival, and it's really beautiful because like people, it's not just in the cities that they do the lantern. So if you're around our property for like the days before and the days after Loy Krathong, you could just see these lanterns in the sky. And we went to the temples nearby where they're all doing their celebrations there with the Krathong. That's a really special time of year to come. That would be probably my top recommendation is Loy Krathong. It's really beautiful. There's also Songkran Festival, which is the one where it's like a big water fight. I don't know. Some people are more into that than others. So Loy Krathong, I think, is the most universally enjoyed festival.
Wow, I can just imagine these lanterns floating over the forest. It's so beautiful. I never
Yeah, it's
actually
really
knew.
beautiful.
I don't know why I thought, oh, this is, something where people come to the cities to do it, but that's an amazing image to give
Yeah,
it.
it's also very nice to not be in the city because the city is packed for Loy Krathong. So it's
Yeah.
very nice to be away from that when that is going on. And we're right near Lamphun, which is also a city but much smaller and much less touristic. So we can go to we went to the temple there this year one of the nights, and because they do it for technically it's only one night, but in Chiang Mai they do it for 3 nights. So
Oh, yeah, fantastic. Well, Leah, thank you so much for sharing all about Little Forest and congratulations on opening your retreat. Is there
thank
anything
you.
else you would like to share with us before you go, including where people can follow you or find out more?
Yeah, so we're on, the usual social media channels, Instagram, Facebook. It's Little Forest Chiang Mai because there's a number of things called Little Forest in the world. So we're Little Forest Chiang Mai. But yeah, I hope I see you guys there. It's a beautiful place. If you're in the neighborhood, please come and say hello. I would love to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Leah. Come to the Little Forest. I don't think you're going to regret it.